Howdy folks, Corky Duke Farminator here. Come with me if you want to farm. This is Farming Simulator 22, Silverrun Forrest, Woody Johnson Farm Part 15. Looks like we got some honey there. What is it? 18, 19, February 2nd. Alright, I think I remember where I was. Alright, now how far are we along in the next phase of the boat construction? 48 hours left. And let's see. I think I was going to. Okay. I think I was simply going to end the day and jump into February 3rd. Wouldn't I? I do believe so. Gosh. Gosh, that was it. Gosh.
Why did you grab this while you were getting the mail?
Where was this?
Right there on the floor.
Okay. Inside the apartment?
No, on the doormat.
Oh, really? One of my new shirts.
I have some kind of pornography on it.
Oh, I wish.
Oh, I got nothing on it. Oh.
Hitler didn't start with camps. He started with Make Germany Great Again, banning books, targeting the press, blaming immigrants, creating enemies from neighbors, defunding the arts, stoking fear of outsiders, demoralizing educators. Sound familiar? Should I type it louder? Definitely sounds familiar. Piece of shit, Trump. That's the other shirt I'm waiting on coming. It literally says Trump is a piece of shit. I can't wait for that one to get here. I'm going to start wearing that when I go grocery shopping. Okay. Alright, yeah. We can, Okay, let's head up to the house. Where'd the house be? There it is. Alright. Just to be certain, I always do this just to be sure, in case something happens. Check out my sheet. You need to check them. Good to go. Alright. Here comes the snow. Little darling, here comes the snow, and I say, brrr. Great demand. Oops, that's not what I want. Sheep are still good. Furniture factory, old sawmill, returner. Okay, six. Alright. 6 hours left. Get the frames getting done pretty good there. Alright, let's see. We're gonna need some more wood. What else was I gonna do? I think just get wood. That's all I need to do. Plenty of money. Ooh, that's expensive. Let's go for that. one more cheap thing. Let's just wait on that. Yeah, one more. Okay. All right. Yeah, we can go for more wood now. Fill my sawmill up. Okay. Where are we going for wood? There's one there. There's another one there. The left-hand side. I should have leveled up. A little high. I have to bring it down. I'll be right back. All right. dirt road. I went to the wrong place. Now I gotta go to a different place, wherever they're at. Okay. That's not far. Let's turn around and go to that one. How many we got from each? 14 and 24 from another. I take it, no, that's got to be the 24. Oh. Let's drop this big thing off here and get that taken care of. Because it's kind of in the road and it's in the way. Same principle. What the heck? How does it do that? There we go. Ah, those are going to fall right through. Just save me. I'll have to come by with a truck or something. Come on, what the hell? Come by with a truck or something, pick them up later. Put them all in the same spot so I can find them. Okay. Forgot to see what the special offer was. Probably nothing I have anyway. Possible this might fill it up. Doubtful. It's going to get closer. Maybe not. Is that it? Gotta be kidding me. All right. Let's just, we'll wait. I got plenty of time. How much more equipment do I have to pay for? Two trucks, 3 tractors. All right. What about another greenhouse? I might actually hit the spot. Bring in more money.
Tapping toes and clapping hands, just a little old string band that plays. Fiddler calls another tune, the people circle around the room and dance. Every Saturday, like a drop to the rain,
This is number 3.
like a car to the train. A voice that sings an old refrain, a link in the chain, like a song on the way. It doesn't end or begin, just keeps on coming around again. A link in the chain, a link in the chain.
Okay, now we gotta max it out. And one more. All right. And it is full. Or maxed out, I should say. We just got to get it filled with water. And we'll get the other ones filled with water too. Oh, crap. Gonna have to get some long planks in the shingle factory. All right. Do this a couple more times and it'll be full. Whoa, crap. I think I finally got my phone to work. Let's see if it's still going to work.
It is the greatest year we've ever had as a country.
The severely diminished American president struggles to make a deal with Iran.
I think there's a good chance that something could happen. And if it does, good. If it doesn't, we go back to doing what we were doing 2 days ago.
Tonight, as the illusion of Trump's power wanes, his enemies and allies both learn how to wait him out.
I say that, Nestor, because we have some Republicans that I will not comment on.
Then Senator Elizabeth Warren on the truth about American casualties from Trump's war. And Troy Jackson on his campaign to unseat Susan Collins as Maine's newest senator.
Little concern is not courage. And what she says in Maine does not erase what she does down in Washington.
Plus, brand new reporting on the outrageous price of Trump's bribery plane.
What would be the price? He said, there is no price. I said, that's nice.
But All In starts right now. Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. Donald Trump is getting weaker by the day, and the stench of loss is now coming off him. He came back into office, you remember, looking to be a dictator on day one. His administration came out of the gate like an unstoppable force. It feels like a different era. Pushing out executive orders, dismantling government agencies, bombing Iran the first time. Remember he did that? His people told us he was a steamroller. He'd roll right over everyone. But lately, Trump is just rolling over. Like a dog, you might say. Making one capitulation after another, globally and domestically. He is as full of bluster as he ever was, but he is weak. And everyone can see how weak he is. They are all calling his bluff, the hardliners in Tehran, to the Republicans in his own party in Washington on Capitol Hill. Last week, Trump was threatening another major offensive against Iran. Half a year after declaring war on them, more than a month after he told us a peace deal was done. I'm considering a massive attack, bigger than ever before, he told Axios on Thursday. He threatened more attacks on civilian bridges, oil refineries, and water supplies. But by Friday morning, Trump backed down off his threat. Today, he said that wasn't a retreat. It was a gambit.
Without what we did, they wouldn't even be talking to us. They requested a meeting through the surrogates and directly. And we're meeting, and, good things can happen. I guess oil dropped very big today. Stock markets, as of about an hour ago, is like through the roof. But no, they requested a meeting. They would not have requested the meeting if we were doing poorly. The only reason they want to meet is because we've been hitting them very hard.
Everyone can see that's not true. Sources in Trump's own administration are telling multiple outlets that the attack plans were scrubbed, at least in part, because the U.S. is running out of some of its most critical defensive weapons. Stockpile air defense missiles to protect American service members and allies in the region is dwindling after months of scrubs. And while the U.S. refuses to say how many missiles it has left, two experts tell the Wall Street Journal they estimate at least 1,500 Patriot missiles have been used since the war with Iran started. They figure that would leave less than 1,000 in the U.S. inventory, more than half gone. Those are missiles that take years to build and cost $4 million a piece. 1,500 of them. Think of that the next time they say there's not something in the budget. Trump says there's no problem. And if there is, of course, it's the last guy's fault.
No, we have plenty. We have a lot of ammunition, different types. Biden gave a lot to Ukraine. And so we're building that up. But we have a lot. We have a lot of the mid-level stuff, too. I mean, more than we could ever use, no matter what. But we have a lot. I'd like to have more, to be honest. But and so much was given to Ukraine by Biden.
Now, to be clear, dwindling stockpiles are not the only problem here, obviously. Officials told the New York Times Trump and his aides are also uneasy about the prospect of a widening war in the Middle East, the alienation of key Gulf allies who are vulnerable to Iranian attack, a global economic crunch, growing energy and refugee crisis. Yes, no kidding. That's what we've all been saying. It's already happening already. It's a huge part of the reason why the commander-in-chief of the most powerful military in history finds himself, obviously, and again, to all observers, you, me, people that cover this professionally, the folks in Tehran, the folks in Europe, in the Middle East, finds himself totally boxed in by the misbegotten, foolish, and dangerous and reckless war that he launched. That and the weapon shortages and the fact that Trump does seem to recognize that an all-out invasion of Iran would be disastrous, which, thank goodness for small favors. He doesn't want to own those casualties or to be the president who sent gas to $7 a gallon. So what we get is the Trump bag of tricks, right? Bullying and bluffing, bloviating, and getting weaker every time his bluff is called. That's the thing. The more you see this play out, right, the more people just call the bluff. And you see it in his domestic agenda too, which basically right now boils down to one obsession only. The only thing he cares about in domestic policy making has nothing to do with people paying lower prices or anything to do with anything that would help working folks or anyone really. It's making it harder to hold free and fair elections that could threaten his majority in Congress. That's it. He wants the congressional majorities to pass the Republican SAVE Act, which would give his government vast power to interfere in elections and also make it very difficult for a whole bunch of people to vote. Earlier this month, he refused. Remember, he boycotted. He refused to sign a bipartisan housing bill passed both houses by huge majorities. He threatened to boycott any other legislation until Congress passed this pet obsession of his, the SAVE Act. Now, here's the thing. It was a totally empty threat because the housing bill, which was passed by both houses of Congress, became law anyway after 10 days, even when not being signed, because that's how federal legislation works. Today, he issued a new threat to his own Senate leader, right? Is it sounding familiar? Quote, John Thune should not allow the United States Senate to leave town until it passes the Save America Act, or far better still, terminates the filibuster, where Republicans can then quickly pass everything they ever dreamed of, including, and I quote here, a full and deep-throated Save America Act. Strange choice of words. What does that mean? I don't know. Also, a poor bluff. Imagine how weak the president would look if he told all those senators in his own party they better stay in Washington or else, and then they just didn't. Well, today he basically admitted his own weakness.
On the SAVE Act, why do you want the U.S. Senate to stay in town? Shouldn't they be out of presidential?
What a stupid question for you to ask. What a stupid question. The SAVE Act has to be done. They shouldn't leave town. I'm not going to stop them from doing it, but they should get the SAVE Act done. If they don't get it done, it's going to be a very bad thing for the party. And frankly, you know, if you look at it, the SAVE Act is going to be voted against by all Democrats, just so we know. We have some Republicans, and I will not comment on a few of them, probably 4, that we probably won't get the vote. I'd like to comment on them, but I have too much sense to do it.
Not only can he not keep his own party senators in Washington, he can't keep them from going on vacation, he admits he can't get them all to vote with him on this. And he just continues to rant at a body that won't do what he wants him to do because he doesn't actually have the power of the leverage anymore, which is also pretty remarkable given how much Republicans of the Hill have basically done whatever he wants. Trump started this term projecting invincibility, in large part because that perception can yield real power. The thing about this cycle is that power can be unwound just as easily when the perception is shattered. The more people see that Trump can be stood up to, the more they see that his escalating rhetoric and his sort of weird bag of bullying tricks, coercion, don't bring him what he wants, the more his manifest impotence is laid bare for all to see. That doesn't mean he is not dangerous, and it does not mean that his fortunes can change. If we've learned one thing over the last 10 years, it's that Donald Trump has proven he has staying power. It's also true, though, that his political capital, his political strength, it does wax and wane, and it is waning right now, before our eyes. The president who once said he was limited only by his own morality is a very severely diminished political figure. In fact, Shakir is a senior advisor to Senator Bernie Sanders, executive director of More Perfect Union, Michelle Goldberg is an opinion columnist with the New York Times, and they both joined me now. Guys, as someone who worked in the Senate for a while, I'm just curious what you make of this, because, again, they have been incredibly obedient and dutiful. He's kind of going to war with them and trying to sort of invent leverage he doesn't have, and they're basically just telling him, like, nah, dude.
You know, my observation, Chris, is that while he is weak and everything that you said is true, you know, he's engaged in two things that he needs to work to his advantage. One is depression of the voter turnout. So whatever he can do to make sure fewer people vote, the Republicans are comfortable playing the charade with him. They may not pass the Save America Act, but if they can play the game of saying, hey, there's real concerns and threats with voting, we got to do all these shenanigans, maybe at the state level, to depress turnout, they're good with that. The second thing that Trump knows is at his advantages is the wealth of the oligarchs. He's the president of big business. He's the president of corporate monopolies. And you'll note that in the Iran stuff that you talked about at the front, Chris, the voices that are not speaking out against the Iran war are big business. And in fact, the only thing that tends to compel President Trump when he gets into trouble is when the Dow starts to dip, when the S&P 500 starts to move. Oh, you know, the oil inputs for some of my big tech oligarchs is a problem. Not the condition of working class or small businesses in this country, but when big business stands up, and they can move him. But they are not doing it on the Iran war, which is interesting to me.
Well, they don't
making
do
money
it
off
yet.
the
They're
Iran
not speaking out. I mean, I think we've seen no one speak out. The two things he does clearly look at are the Dow and oil prices.
They make money
he
off
keeps saying, I don't
all
want to be Herbert Hoover. He doesn't want gas at $7. So that has been a limiting condition, but it's also, that limiting condition is part of what creates this strange pageantry we see, Michelle, which is like at one level, I'm horrified at the thought of some major escalation as I watch, U.S. service members being put over their big combat units, right? And reports coming out of the White House. At the same time, you kind of sort of feel like, we do know this is a bluff. Like, everyone sort of sees what you're up to because you keep doing the same thing over and over.
And part of, I think, the difficult thing about talking about this, certainly the difficult thing about Democrats kind of making hay about it, is that nobody wants to goad Trump into doing something insane.
Exactly.
Right? So it is better that he displays kind of weakness and confusion than that he tries in some manic show of strength to resume full-scale war. But because that's sort of, everybody knows that, and Democrats know that, the political scene is really underreacting to the scale of the national humiliation. I mean, you cannot imagine if the parties were reversed and President Joe Biden or Barack Obama, if 3 servicemen or possibly 4 were killed in action during a skirmish and the president threatened some sort of retaliation and then didn't go through with it, you cannot imagine this kind of scale of howling you would see. And so instead, Trump is actually like a baby that everybody is trying not to make him have a tantrum.
Yeah, and your point too, Faz, about where the focus is. You want to say something? Go ahead.
But just real quick, that in addition to what Michelle's saying, he's a $400 million big baby for the Republicans because he is sitting on, through MAGA, MAGA Inc., hundreds of millions of dollars. That makes him the cash cow of the Republican Party. And so you do not want to cross him out of fear that he may dump that on you. Many Republicans are worried he won't even spend $1. That he might just sit on hundreds of millions of dollars and ride into a post-presidency in which he continues to, have huge effect over the Republican Party. So they're actually trying to goad him and cajole him into spending those dollars on their behalf. And meanwhile, it's important to think about the money. The money is that is what is making everything run. Every time when I see these fluctuations in the oil market, I keep wondering and worrying, is somebody around him making money off of these dips and rises? We've seen that people are trading heavily on the Truth Social numbers, and that's all accruing to a massive cash advantage, which is really important not to forget about.
Yeah, and that point about the $400 million, he's obviously been raising money, from the inauguration, right? He's term limited out. He can't run again. I think it is a real question of is he really going to spend a lot of money because he wants other Republicans to win, or is he going to just walk off in the sunset with it? The regulation on that money is incredibly light touch, we should say, these days. So I'm not convinced he's going to be dropping that on the heads of Democrats. But the other thing here, Michelle, is that we talk so much about him and attention, his ability to command attention, sort of direct it. Right now, I think if you ask any Republican, a senator in a battleground state, a frontline House member, a political consultant, they'd say the two things they don't want people to be thinking about is the Iran war and gas prices and tariffs and generally affordability. And it seems like he is dead set on directing everyone. Like, when they announced their new round of tariffs yesterday, it almost felt like perverse. Like he's got some kind of illicit thrill in constantly going back to the thing that people like the least.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it was, if you already the kind of reignition of this war that never ended was driving up gas prices, was driving up bond yields, and this was just sort of bound to add to that, and he can't let it go. And I also wonder if at some point, I don't think it's come yet, but at some point there is going to be diminishing returns for some of these oligarchs, both because they're going to spend, if Democrats take either House of Congress, they're going to spend the next 2 years answering questions and being subpoenaed. I have a column up now that, David Ellison, the Trump-aligned oligarch who was about to take over Warner Brothers and with it CNN, there's now, that deal now is in jeopardy. And part of, it's in jeopardy because of a lawsuit, but also because people are starting to find their courage.
And not only that, I think this dynamic, right, the sort of, the kind of vicious cycle or virtuous cycle, depending on which way it's going, Faz, which is like, when you see that you can cross him and nothing happens, like, he is weaker, and there was this weird Jedi mind trick they were all doing, which is like, Donald Trump is going to reign forever and nothing ever is going to come back after him, so do what he says now. But, the more time ticks by, the more that something out past him becomes more tangible, even to oligarchs or any kind of interest group that's trying to calculate its own self-advantage.
For those Democrats out there campaigning, I mean, just remember the people are with you. They are fed up with this corruption. They want a different direction. I do tend to think, like Michelle was saying, there's a great opening for campaigning on the idea of how you are going to go after the oligarchs, because people know they're cozied up with Trump. They made a bet. And so, do you want to tax oil windfall profits? Do you want to tax sports betting and huge gains off of crypto? Do you want to tax mergers and transactions, as Michelle was talking about? Those are all great opportunities for hopefully progressive-minded Democrats to say, not only am I going against Trump, I'm going against an oligarchic class that has tax benefits that accrue to their advantage. When you put us into power, I'm going after it.
Faz Shakir and Michelle Goldberg, great to have you both. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Coming up, Sarah Elizabeth Warren on the truth about the Americans in Trump's war with Iran. That's next. Since Donald Trump resumed his war of choice with Iran, 4 American service members have been killed. Last week on Wednesday, the Pentagon reported those deaths on their website, bringing the total count for those killed since the start of the war with Iran to 18. Then the very next day, as reported by the New York Times, the Defense Department reduced the number of Americans killed to 14. The acting press secretary for the Pentagon, Joel Valdez, attributed the change to, quote, temporary data disruption, suggesting the issue would be fixed quickly. But then, as of today, the reduced number is still up on the Pentagon's website. It wasn't, it looks like, a data disruption. Instead, what it looks like is that the Pentagon has moved the 4 casualties to a new category titled Overseas Operation. 3 military officials told the New York Times the reason behind the change was because those 4 deaths occurred after Trump declared a ceasefire in April. Joining us now, Senator Elizabeth Warren, Democrat of Massachusetts. She serves as a ranking member on the Senate Armed Services Subcommittee on Personnel. Senator, it's good to have you. I don't think I've ever seen anything like this, and at some level, the service members lost are still gone. Their families are still grieving whatever the numbers say and whatever the website says, so it's sort of the least important thing here. But it does strike me as strange and somewhat graceless for the administration to do this. What do you think?
Well, it does. It just is an act of cruelty. Think what that means for those families. But it is also the move of every autocrat in history, is to try to control reality, to control history, to control the line of what's told. You and I sat here, a year and a half ago, when the person who reported the unemployment statistics got fired. And we looked at each other and said, wait a minute. Those are just the numbers. And the answer is no. Donald Trump wants to put a pro-Trump blush on everything that he possibly can get away with. And this is just one more example, only this time, no matter who it hurts, no matter how much cruelty it imposes on an already grieving family.
I want to ask you one more question about the portfolio of the U.S. Pentagon, because you do serve on that committee. And should Democrats take the Senate, and I know you've been campaigning hard to make sure that happens, I think there's a real oversight vacuum. And one of the things I think there's an enormous oversight background are these boat strikes. These have been grinding on in the background. Over 200 people have been killed. We know very little about who they are. We know little about the circumstances under which they were killed. And even the sort of legality of the entire thing. Pentagon officials told lawmakers the strikes in international waters off South and Central America had not reduced the purity of cocaine, which I guess was one of the ostensible goals. In the past year, U.S. forces have attacked at least 67 boats. They've killed 221 people, and yet the availability, purity of the drug in question remains the same, even by its own metrics, does not seem to be successful. Do you think Democrats will be conducting oversight into these strikes if they take the Senate back?
Oh, yes, I do. I think that a big shift, if Democrats are able to take back the House and the Senate, obviously legislation is part of it. For those of us in the Senate, it's going to be nominations, confirmations, and the Supreme Court. But it's oversight. This is a huge job of the United States Congress. What is astonishing is that none of this has happened already. And the reason it hasn't happened already is the Republicans have had their spines surgically removed. They are afraid to do anything that might anger Donald Trump. And so one of the big shifts is we will have investigations. We will have the power of subpoena. We will be able to bring in people and put them under oath. We will be able to get the documents. And part of that will be about just getting to the truth of what's happened, but it also means accountability for those who are involved.
Every single poll says that the top issue for voters is cost of living, affordability, things feel too expensive, and that sort of bleeds over to other anxieties people have about the economy. One of the top things, groceries come in number one, and then energy and the housing basically 1, 2, 3 in most of the polls I've seen, even though housing is a huge chunk of people's income. The craziest thing happened here, which is that you and Tim Scott and a bipartisan coalition in both houses managed to pass this housing bill. It passed by huge majorities. I had you on the program the day it passed. And then the president threw a tantrum, refused to sign it, and it became law anyway, so that he can't really get any credit for it or say look, at least I signed this housing bill about affordability, but it still became law. And I haven't talked to you since then, but it's really one of the oddest developments I've seen, and I wonder what you think about how that all went down.
So, you have to remember, Donald Trump, this actually, I guess, shouldn't have surprised us, except that it was so damn dumb. But Donald Trump has said all along that he thinks affordability is a hoax. It doesn't really exist, ho-hum. He has made clear he doesn't care about families in America. He doesn't care about their costs. He doesn't care about how they're struggling. And frankly, he clearly doesn't care about Republicans in the House and the Senate, who at least could have stood up and said, we got one thing done besides tax breaks for billionaires. But no, Donald Trump didn't bother doing that either. And I actually have a theory now. And my theory is there was nothing in it for Donald Trump. There were no gold statues for Donald Trump, no gold bars for Donald Trump, no naming opportunities for Donald Trump, no arches for Donald Trump in this housing bill. This was just a housing bill that has nearly 50 provisions in it, all of which are about building more housing and bringing down costs, and for the first time ever in American history, beating back private equity and saying they can't come in and buy up all our houses and turn us into a nation of renters. So I guess we've learned the lesson. If you want to get something, if you want Donald Trump's signature, you need to give a little something to Donald Trump to make it happen.
Hell.
Yeah, he even said, it was very funny, he even said, he started talking about it being boring, and just kind of like, housing, whatever. Like it just didn't interest him. He's very manifestly bored, I think, with policy. Final question for you. You've been going around. I know that you're going to be campaigning in the midterms here. How do you feel now? We're going to talk to Troy Jackson in just a minute. Democrats have a nominee in Maine. There's a very contested primary in Michigan, but pretty soon that nominee will be set. How do you feel about how things are shaping up in the Senate?
Oh, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good about Troy Jackson. You'll get to talk to him in just a minute. You'll see why I'm feeling good. He's the right guy for Maine. But I'm also feeling good. I'm feeling good about Michigan. I was just there, as you know, I was just there the day before yesterday, on the ground, campaigning with Abdul Al-Sayed. And the energy, the people who just can finish the sentences, get money out of politics, get more money into people's pockets, and get health care for everyone. People get how the corruption links up to their higher costs, and they are ready to go out and knock on doors and make it happen. And here's the thing. On the issues, it is clear there are folks all over Michigan who are there with him, but the money is pouring in from the outside. Big Pharma does not want someone who's talking about how to bring down the cost of healthcare. Crypto doesn't want someone who is talking about how to have a fairer system. And that's APAC is coming in, spending a lot of money there. $60 million committed for what? To try to stop him from becoming the Democratic nominee. So I see this, and the way I kept hearing it, it's the many versus the money. And we're seeing that in Michigan, and I also got to say we're seeing it over in Minnesota in the primary there, where we've got this terrific candidate, Peggy Flanagan. I've known her 10 years. Somebody who's really delivered for working people on the minimum wage and school lunches, built this grassroots campaign all across Minnesota, volunteers door to door. We were there together with lots of babies and mamas doing a huge event on universal child care, but she's getting outspent enormously with crypto money, with APAC money that is coming in against her. So again, the many versus the money, and that's how these races are lining up.
There's a lot of unprecedented and record-setting amount of Silverrun money in these primaries, state to state, and in House races. We're going to see even more in the general, which is something to keep in mind. Senator Elizabeth Warren, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Still have the new Maine Democratic Senate nominee, Troy Jackson, the aforementioned, joins me live right here about what it's going to take to win this race. That's next. We are 99 days from Election Day, and after a roller coaster process, I think it's fair to say, Maine Democrats finally had their Senate nominee. Former Maine Senate President Troy Jackson, populist, backed by the likes of Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, a guy who's represented a district that has trended towards Trump, and he still won election after election, will face off against five-term incumbent Republican Susan Collins in November.
For nearly 30 years, Collins has told Maine that she is concerned. Maine does not need another 6 years of concern. We need someone with courage. We need a fighter. And we need a senator who remembers exactly who sent them to Washington, which is you.
After a swift organizing campaign, Jackson was formally voted the nominee at a party convention over the weekend. He actually swept through and racked up delegates, wasn't even close. He will now replace the former nominee, Grant Plattner, who resigned from the ticket earlier this month amid allegations of sexual assault, which he denies. Replacing Plattner so quickly, and I gotta say, in such a unified fashion, given how bleak things looked just a few weeks ago, pretty impressive achievement by Maine Democrats. Now, of course, comes the hard part, which is winning an election against Susan Collins. And Troy Jackson joins me now. That's great.
Same Susan Collins, that when she was first elected, only promised to do 2 terms. Now she's on her, she's going for her 6th term. A fucking liar.
Maine was a big fight there. It was really covered. But I don't think national people know it. So I wondered if you could just tell us, like, how you got into politics in the first place.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me, Chris. I mean,
most of us in the logging industry just wanted to make a living. We just wanted to provide for our families. 98, the exchange rate went up to like 55 cents on the dollar. Of course, Canadian workers have health care, have prescription drugs, and it got really challenging for us. And so, a group of us started getting together, trying to get our elected officials, Olympia Snow, Angus King, Susan Collins, to help us. And what we found from that is that they didn't want to do anything to help us. They wanted to, work for the billionaires and the big landowners. And that's what forced us to, push the issue by going to the border and blocking it. And that's, what I found from that is that, I grew up thinking that if you played by the rules, did everything right, you would be rewarded, the government would work for you. That isn't the case. What I found from that is that it all comes down to who has the biggest checkbooks, who writes the biggest checks. That's the power, and that's why I ran for legislature and been fighting it ever since. There's a pullout. The recent polling has you up by Susan Collins within the margin of error, or right around there.
Oh, crap.
You were able to raise $2 million for about $30,000 in the first 24 hours after your nomination. Obviously, Susan Collins is formidable. She said, actually, her statement was like, I've known Troy Jackson a long time, and I know you've known her a long time. Why do you think you win this race?
Well, I think people across the state are fed up with someone that caters to the wealthy elite in this country, the billionaires, and that's what Susan's been doing. Right from the first time that we reached out to her, it was about making sure that the wealthiest people get the breaks. And I think that now more than ever in this state, people are really frustrated. I mean, more than ever, they're willing to step up. They're willing to push back against this belief that you can't get out of line, that you can't say anything. But
Spam risk? Yup. Sorry, Mr. Spam risk. Ain't talking to you today.
now it's gotten so bad in this state with healthcare, with hospitals closing, with childcare, with prescription drugs, with the collective bargaining issues, that people are stepping up and saying, no more of this. And I've never seen anything like this as far as the movement, the amount of people. And while Susan's got the billionaires, we get a lot of everyday working class people, and you can go to jacksonformaine.com and make sure that we have the resources to win this race, because we're on the right side of it.
There was this awful shooting in Biddeford, Maine, of a young man who just seems like trying to live his life, had gone through and sort of applied for asylum, shot and killed. There was a sort of intervention in which Susan Collins, in sort of standard fashion, said, she talked to the Secretary of DHS and they were going to stop these traffic stops. And then immediately Donald Trump reversed that decision, said, no, we're going to keep doing them. I wonder what you thought that episode said about what kind of influence Susan Collins actually wields and who she wields it for.
Yeah, well, we heard all about that this winter, the power of Susan Collins. I mean, back this winter, they were yanking people out of their vehicles, taking people out of their houses, with no warrants, anything like that. And then they were falsifying the reports, going down to the judges in Boston. Susan told us that, she used her power to pull ICE agents out. Clearly, that's not the case. We had a young man that was had a 3-year-old daughter, a family. I was trying to do everything he could, and it makes me think of all kinds of people I know. It makes me think of, my own life, just trying to play by the rules. And he wasn't even the person that they were looking for, and they murdered him in the streets of Biddeford. And Susan didn't do anything to stop that. I mean, she's the chair of appropriations. I mean, she just gave them $70 billion to go out and do their rogue agency, stuff. And it's just, it's wicked sad. And that's what we see with Senator Collins. She won't stand up for the people in Maine. She won't stand up for the people in the country. I mean, we're losing health care. We're having people that are murdered by ICE. Hospitals are closing. And all she cares about is giving income tax cuts to the wealthiest people in this country. And people know that. People see that. And this whole thing about, people not being able to live in the state of Maine, live in this country, it's going to come back on her because she has the power as the chair of appropriations to shut this off, and she won't do it because she's afraid of Donald Trump.
Troy Jackson got to start in politics almost 30 years ago with his father in that wildcat labor logging action in Maine, now the Democratic nominee in the Senate of Maine. Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time tonight.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. I really appreciate it.
Still to come, one of the reporters targeted by Trump's Department of Justice has brand new reporting on the growing cost of Trump's bribery plane. Seriously, this one blew me away. He joins me next. Every week it seems we learn more about Donald Trump's flying bribery palace, and the whole project seems at once more ridiculous, more self-indulgent, and more corrupt. Now, in a new investigation, the New York Times finds that Trump's push to speed delivery of an upgraded Air Force One led to ballooning costs and trade-offs in safety features. This administration spent hundreds of millions of dollars on top of the $400 million they have already publicly acknowledged, including, get this, we learned this from the New York Times, for the purchase of not one, but two other 747s they used to train crews and supply spare parts. The Pentagon has tried to mask the total price tag, so we don't know exactly how much taxpayers are spending on a plane that's slated to go to Trump Presidential Library and leaves. And the administration has never really explained how this is all being financed, but according to Times, they appear to be using $934 million, almost $1 billion, that they transferred from a nuclear modernization program called Sentinel last summer. In fact, Trump has been obsessed with getting a luxury aircraft befitting a king of the United States, no matter the financial cost or the security risk, since before he returned to office. Times reports, quote, just weeks after his re-election in 2024, he sent the soon-to-be head of DOGE, Elon Musk, to speed up the years-long transformation of the two Boeing jets originally intended to replace the Air Force One fleet. Musk concluded the project had gotten bogged down by security concerns. Now, after all this, Trump's new Qatari gifted jet is out of service while the security features they initially left off are being installed, leaving Trump to fly today on the old Air Force One. Poor guy. Tyler Pager is a White House correspondent, has been all over the story. He was among the reporters subpoenaed by the Department of Justice over their coverage of Air Force One. He also just received an award by the White House Correspondents Association for other reporting, well-deserved, I would add. Tyler, great to have you on the program.
Thanks so much for having me, Chris.
Let me just start with the Elon Musk detail, because I think that's new and we didn't know. Trump has been very Air Force One obsessed from his first term. He had a model on the desk. He's like very into planes. What do we know about what he had Musk try to go do early in the days? I think even pre-Doge, to try to speed up the Air Force One, the new Air Force Ones.
Yeah, Chris, you're right. Trump has been obsessed with getting a new plane. He was unhappy with the decades-old Air Force One fleet that presidents have been flying on since George H.W. Bush. So he dispatched Elon Musk to try to go figure out what was taking so long with Boeing, who was contracted to build new Air Force Ones for the president to fly on. And he was disappointed that in his second term, he was unlikely to be able to fly on those new planes. So he initially sent Elon to see what was going on there. It was ultimately decided that those planes were bogged down in security concerns that Elon had complained about. He said that there were too many issues, too many security things going on, that they then moved their attention from trying to speed that up to finding new planes that could serve as what they call a bridge plane for Trump during his second term.
So then they get the Qatari plane. Now, the background of that story is amazing. I mean, Trump basically says they offered him for free. Later reporting indicates that he solicited it from them as could I have it free? They thought they were selling it to him, and it basically was well, I would kind of like to just have it. Then they faced the same issue with the Qatari plane, right? Where they're trying to rush it to get it in service, but there's like an enormous retrofitting. What do we know about how that process went?
Yeah, I mean, if you just take a look at how long it's taken to build these new Air Force Ones, which are retrofitted 747 planes, it's taken years, because Air Force One is not just the plane the president flies on, it's basically a situation room, Oval Office combination in the air. The president needs to be able to respond to any sort of disaster or emergency from the air. So there are many security communication features that are added to the plane. Through our reporting, through documents, through interviews, we've identified multiple things that the Qatari donated jet does not have. For example, you're showing it right now on the screen, this lower entryway door that is used in emergency situations. For example, I flew when I was covering President Biden, and he flew into Israel shortly after October 7th. There was a whole security briefing on the plane for us as the reporters, and this is something that he would have used, a lower entry door. He then used it throughout his presidency or later in his presidency. That sort of went with age concerns, but this is easier and quicker to access. You don't have to wait for a jet bridge to come over. You can just get out. The Qatari donated jet does not have that. There's also advanced missile capabilities that the new Qatari donated jet is not visible. There's backup capacity that is not also part of that bridge plane. And the other thing, Chris, that I just want to point out is that the White House has said the plane is going into service again to be retrofitted and, hyper maxed up. Officials we talked to said there is no way in just a 1 month time frame, which the White House has outlined roughly how long the plane will be out of service, that you could cut open another door and add that, or add some of these other capabilities that are not on the Qatari donated jet. So again, it has taken years for Boeing to, and they're not even done, to make this new Air Force One fleet. And Trump has done that in a timeline of a few months.
Okay, in the final 30 seconds here, the conceit in the beginning was we're getting a plane donated. You guys are tallying what looks like maybe $900 million spent between retrofitting the Qatari plane and buying two others for parts and training.
Yes, this was not a cheap endeavor by any stretch of the imagination, and it's understandable. Again, Air Force One requires a lot of security features to protect the president and enable him to do his job in the air.
Go grab some coffee. Be right back.
Of what it has, taken to retrofit this Qatari jet, but we do know it is hundreds of millions of dollars more than the $400 million that was already publicly identified being used to retrofit this plane.
Great reporting, Tyler Prater. Check it out in the New York Times. Thank you for your time tonight. Stay tuned. It's Monday, which means one thing. Rachel Maddow is coming up. Don't go anywhere.
Remember blowing into a cartridge and hoping it would finally load? This is real, original Super Nintendo hardware, rebuilt into a brand new shell. The Supernova HD, not an emulator, not a knockoff, authentic SNES and Super Famicom internals, with HDMI built in for crystal clear play on any TV. It looks brand new. Plays your original cartridges exactly as intended. Same 16-bit magic, now full clarity. Handpicked, tested, and backed by a full 1-year warranty. Free shipping at just $129.97 compared to $219.97 for an original SNES. Save big with code SUPERNOVA12 at checkout. Which SNES classic are you plugging in first?
Sometimes intelligence is good, and sometimes you look at Comey, and you look at Brennan, and you look at Clapper, and I'm supposed to believe that intelligence? I never believe that intelligence. You look at Brennan, and you look at Clapper, and you get some real beauties. Well, I think Brennan's a sick person.
How involved was John Brennan?
Totally involved. was totally wrong. John Brennan was one of the architects, in my opinion.
Hi again, everybody. It's now 5 o'clock in the East. Suffice to say, he has been obsessed for years now. Trump has been attacking and criticizing former director of the CIA, John Brennan, for years. Going after him seems to be one of Trump's greatest obsessions, but these are not just hollow smears and complaints. Trump has weaponized the government he now leads to go after his perceived opponent. Today marks a significant development in that story. Director Brennan is today going on the offense. But first, a quick refresher. Director Brennan, following decades of public service in the CIA, served as the agency's director from 2013 to 2017, during those years under President Barack Obama. The director became a target of Donald Trump's, ostensibly for his role in the intelligence assessment that stated that Russia interfered in the 2016 election with the aim of helping Donald Trump win. Since then, Donald Trump has railed against John Brennan as well as others involved in that assessment. He has revoked John Brennan's security clearance, and 2 investigations have been launched into the former director of the CIA. One is over allegations that Director Brennan lied to Congress in 2023 about the intelligence assessment. There was a referral from the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, Trump ally Jim Jordan. The other is a case that Brennan is part of some sort of grand conspiracy that Caroline Leavitt has talked about from the podium of the White House briefing room to keep Trump out of office. Brennan has denied any wrongdoing in both cases. Today, Director Brennan, who is an MS Now senior national security and intelligence analyst, is joining us for an exclusive interview to discuss his latest move, which is to sue Donald Trump and the Justice Department. Director Brennan has asked a judge to force DOJ to preserve all of its records from that lawsuit. Quote, administration officials from the acting attorney general to the FBI director and the counselor overseeing the Brennan investigations have been publicly declaring Director Brennan a criminal, not only before securing a conviction in court, but even before a full investigation and indictment. And certain officials in the Department of Justice are engaging in demonstrably irregular prosecutorial activity in order to gin up a case that will satisfy the president's direction. Director Brennan expects that he will forcefully challenge any eventual indictment as a product of an unconstitutionally vindictive and selective prosecution. Given the government's questionable recent history with respect to its record preservation and other legal obligations, however, Director Brennan has a well-founded concern that those records and communications will not be preserved until such time as the court can review them for evidence of unconstitutional vindictiveness. About Brennan's lawsuit, the New York Times writes this, quote, the request for a judicial order requiring officials to keep records about a case that has not even been filed was somewhat unusual, and yet it reflected just how abnormal Trump's revenge campaign has become in recent months. As the president's attempts to use the courts to go after his adversaries have become more aggressive, so too have the reciprocal efforts by defense lawyers who have sought to fight the inquiries at ever earlier stages of the investigative process. Firing back at Donald Trump's revenge campaign is where we begin this hour with former director of the CIA, John Brennan. Thank you for being here and having this conversation with us.
Absolutely, Nicole. Thanks for having me on.
So, what made you sort of take a different legal strategy? Because the facts have always been the same, and I just want to ask you to go over the facts of the smears and the alleged investigations into you as they've been unearthed by Trump ally John Durham, by Marco Rubio, who was the senator in charge of the Intelligence Committee when it comes to that 2016 intelligence assessment.
Well, Nicole, clearly I didn't come to the decision to launch this lawsuit against the Trump administration, President Trump, and the Department of Justice lightly. But as you and I have talked numerous times for the past 18 months, Donald Trump has been engaged in this campaign to punish individuals he considers his enemies. And I am being targeted by Donald Trump because I fulfilled my obligations in 2016 as director of the CIA to expose Russian interference in that presidential election of that year. And there was an intelligence community assessment that was put out by the FBI, CIA, NSA, and the Office of Director of National Intelligence that chronicled exactly what Vladimir Putin and the Russians were doing. Well, obviously Donald Trump didn't like that. But also, he has condemned me because I have spoken out publicly since I left office when I see that things that Donald Trump is doing are wrong-headed, or that are just reflecting, I think, the incompetence as well as the corruption of his administration. So clearly over these last 18 months, it's not just me, it's other individuals as well. It's Jerome Powell, it's Jim Comey, it's others, Letitia James, who have also been targeted. And most egregiously, he's not just condemning us publicly with his rhetoric, he is leveraging the tremendous authorities of the Department of Justice in very corrupt, unethical, and I would argue illegal ways to use those authorities to launch these investigations against individuals. Now, there are 2 grand jury investigations underway in the Southern District of Florida where I have been subpoenaed. I have complied completely with the request from the government, despite the speciousness of these investigations and the lack of any evidence indicating any wrongdoing on my part. But I have come to believe, in talking to my lawyers, that we can't trust the Department of Justice to carry out its duties in a manner that it has done over the past centuries, in terms of a presumption of regularity, that the courts will give the Department of Justice and the U.S. government the presumption that it is carrying out its obligations responsibly and with integrity. But it has not, in terms of forum shopping and judge shopping and having individuals and professional prosecutors who have resigned rather than pursue investigations that have no basis in fact. So if they're doing this, I also am concerned, and my lawyers are very concerned, that any type of records that might in fact expose what they are doing are not being
do you still support Trump?
Let's stop. Excuse me?
Do you still support Trump?
100% I do.
Oh gosh. Okay, well,
I will continue with the fine reset that he's doing.
Okay, so what do you like about Trump
Let's talk
stuff?
about that wall. I'm going to give you that source. I got a lot of them here that we are asking from Chris. So what does the smart wall, basically the border wall system, include? Do you know that?
I'm waiting for the source.
Well, I'm asking you a question. I gave you, okay, you want to go with me here? Okay, this is going to take you to, let me get the website and we'll read it together. How's that? Okay, U.S. Customs and Border Protection. We're going to go right to the area here of the people on the ground that actually work that wall, right? Okay, just go to cdp.gov. There you go.
Yeah, what's the title?
Smart Wall. Frequently asked questions. We're going to go through some questions here.
We're just looking at the FAQ? Okay.
Then we're going to go down the general questions. We're going to do this together. You're in class
where
right now.
where in the source does it specifically say, within the frequently asked questions, does it say the 87% number that he specifically referenced on a border city?
Well, we're going to scroll up. We're going to talk about the general questions, the purpose,
No, I want a source
the
for the
mileage
specific claim.
technology, and the waterborne barrier, as well as the waiver. Any additional information? Painting the border wall black. Would you like to know a little bit about that too?
Is this the best you got? You can't actually prove
No,
that
I'm
claim, so
right
you're just
off the
going to do
page.
this.
Any questions you want about that border?
Yeah.
I'm right here.
Where's
I
that
need to show you
source?
the wall construction photos. Would you like to see that?
I'm asking where's the source saying that when put up, it caused crime to reduce by 87%.
Okay. That's where we're going. The general first question. What does the smart wall include, right?
Okay.
So I'm gonna tell you
All right.
this. Okay?
We're never going to get a response to this, are we, Chad?
No, we're gonna walk you through it. You're in class right now because you really need to learn how to dive deep, and I'm gonna take you there. So are you gonna listen? Is this how you are in
school? You don't want to listen to it?
Pitch.
Okay. As of today, we are constructing a smart wall. Okay.
Do you have a college degree?
I sure do.
What's your degree?
Why are you pivoting?
Because we're just talking about random shit.
No, we're going to talk about the wall.
No,
You're not going to pivot.
No, we're
You're not going to pivot.
We're just talking about random shit. So what do you
No, we're going to stay focused. Class, stay focused. Okay?
Says the one who's like completely distracting away from the source that you were saying you were going to provide.
I
mean, if you don't want to provide the source for that, that's fine. We can talk about like the broader policies of the Trump administration if you'd like.
No, I'm gonna educate you on the wall.
Okay, is the entirety of the border wall fully constructed?
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
Is the border secure?
Yes, it is.
So the border can be secure without there being a fully constructed wall?
Yes, it's called border
looks like
agents that are writing, and we're funding them to stay until we got more border patrol in the
Liberals were right. Liberals were right. We can secure the border without there being a fully constructed wall. Good job, liberals.
They're working on it. They're constructing.
Good job, liberals. You were right all along.
You know what the smart wall is that they're doing right now? Can you tell me?
I don't know why you're so obsessed with the smart wall. No, I don't know everything about the smart wall.
No, that's what they're doing.
Tell me everything you know about this. I want to know off the top of your head everything you know about the smart wall. No, don't even look at the website. Tell me off the top of your head everything you know about the smart wall.
The smart wall is comprised of a steel bollard wall or even a waterborne barrier. You know what that is?
No.
I mean, so.
No, you need to tell me in Miss Rachel terms.
What the smart wall is. And let's just go with creating an enforcement zone. How's that?
I don't know. Enforcement's too big of a word for me. I don't know what that means.
Okay, well, a smart wall is going to provide border patrol with both the impotence and denial.
Impotence? Oh, jeez, that's oh, jeez, I don't know what that means.
Really, dude, you just want me to tell you the percentage of people not able to cross that? Is that what you're looking for? What's your?
Yeah. I inevitably either want the source for the claim, or I want you to like tell me why you support Trump instead of just talking about irrelevant stuff. Because otherwise, I'm going to make it difficult for you for fun. Because I think I find this to be very fun just to do this.
You don't like the truth. That's why you guys are so.
I don't like the truth. I'm so
stupid. No, you don't. You talk what you want people to hear and believe.
What makes you think that I'm so stupid?
Because I'll tell you, for one, you don't want to learn about it right now. I'm willing to walk you through and teach you, like in class, like a teacher would do, about the wall and about the benefits of that wall. I can even tell you how it's being constructed.
If the border wall is already secure, if the border's already secure, why do we need the wall?
Built over 74 million listeners without a record label, agent, or manager. How is this even possible? Katie Baby, the leader in independent music distribution since 1990. My name is Melina Katie, and before I was a full-time theatrical operator,
because we're still working on the wall, and it's more secure than there is.
Why? If it's already secure, what's the point?
Why not the wall?
We're securing a border that's already secure?
Yeah, because we got more border patrol agents.
At this point, why don't we just put bombs like that? Just like go off everywhere. Why don't we put Star Wars? Why don't we just do everything? Let's lightsabers that are just like on the wall. Okay, why don't we do that? Because remember, we gotta secure a border that's already secure. Everything about turrets everywhere, right? Like gotta secure the border wall more than it's already secure. No, that would be relevant, right? Because the border's already secure.
I'm going to tell you. Okay, the border is secure now, okay? And it is due to a combination of strict enforcement.
Sharks and lasers, actually. We're going to be doing that, okay? Sharks and lasers.
I'm going to tell you. You don't want to...
Go ahead, yeah, tell us, please, sorry.
Okay. Okay, so the wall is secure now due to a combination of strict enforcement measures, correct? A significant reduction in illegal crossings and effective immigration policies implemented in recent years, okay? So we're going to give you the CBD intake has dropped to the lowest levels ever recorded. For instance, I mean, even July 2025, there were 0 illegal aliens released into the country for the 3rd consecutive month.
So why do we need a wall? Who is it preventing? If there's 0, is the wall going to prevent?
Okay, because I work for the federal government. I just basically retired, but let me tell you something.
There's 0 people going through, but we still need to put the wall.
I'm gonna take you to the back door. Okay, do you know what earmark is?
No.
When the budget is, at the end of the fiscal year, when the CR happens every year, the continuing resolution, you see we earmark funding for different areas.
Oh, yes,
correct?
I know what you're talking about, yes.
Okay, and so we got more border patrol out there, which we shouldn't have to have once that wall is finished, correct? Then we can pull them out and use that money elsewhere. But right now,
okay, so you're claiming we're going to inevitably reduce the amount of border patrol once the wall is constructed.
Well, it'll help reduce. Yes.
Oh, okay. So
now,
your perspective is that we don't need as many border patrol in order to be able to secure the border.
Right now we do, because it's not completed. Are you with me here?
Okay. So, and do we need a northern
So
wall?
once the wall is completed, yeah, we can still have our border patrol out there, but we don't need that many. We don't need to earmark the budget for that once it's complete.
Do we need a northern wall?
That'll free up funds, right?
Do we need a northern wall?
Do we need a northern wall? Are you talking Tijuana, San Diego? Oh, no, you were talking Canada. Okay, excuse me. I was thinking, yeah. Canada?
Yeah.
Yeah? We should have a border there.
We should have a border wall between the U.S. and Canada.
Canadians want to keep the Americans here.
Right now, we shouldn't. I mean, we never have had that. Okay?
So we shouldn't have a wall?
Not in Canada. Not right now.
Why not? We have to secure our border.
Hello? Hello?
You don't think
when we secure our southern border, it helps our northern border. We don't have, do you understand? When we stop at them at the southern border, they can't travel to Canada, correct?
Well, okay. You understand people can come from the north.
It's called
the White Walkers are coming.
The what?
Yeah, the White Walkers are coming.
The White Walkers.
We've got to protect the north.
What is that? That sounds like you're on a conspiracy mission. Are you here, dude?
I'm serious. We've got to defend the north.
What's a White Walker?
We've got to defend the north.
What's a White Walker, my friend?
They're coming for you.
Tirzepatide is 2 times as effective as Ozempic. Here's what the first 30 days looks like after you start embodies.
Yeah.
Wow.
They're coming for us.
Straight out of E.T. You're weird, dude. You're weird.
They're from Game of Thrones, bro. Winter is coming, bro.
I don't watch that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm just making a joke. It's like the wall of the north. Like we have to. I was essentially trying to make a joke that like we should be preventing this problem that doesn't exist, right?
Okay.
Like, cause like you guys want to create a wall for a problem that doesn't even exist. You know.
Okay. Well, the border walls are important for regulating immigration, right? And enhancing national security. Do you agree?
No.
And it addresses issues like smuggling and the T word, right?
Okay, so then how do you feel about Donald Trump pardoning the ex-president of Honduras that was convicted of trafficking over 400 tons of sea drug to the country?
There was a reason he did that. You still don't
What was the
understand.
reason?
Wow. What happened after we grabbed Maduro? What happened? What happened in their country?
I'm asking you why. What is the reason? Can you just tell us the reason that Donald Trump pardoned the ex-president of Honduras who trafficked over 400 tons of sea drug to our country and was convicted of doing so in 2024?
Can you tell me
Hey, Austin, how you doing?
what was in that deal?
Thanks for
with
joining
him?
the stream.
You tell me. I'm asking you. Because I don't think we got anything out of this.
You don't think you got anything out of this?
Are you trying to look it up right now? I can hear you typing.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not typing at all.
Okay, so then just tell us.
Okay, what? Pardons ex-president in drug case? Is that what you're looking for? The D word? Drugs, whatever?
Yeah, Donald Trump pardoned the ex-president of Honduras that was convicted of trafficking over 400 tons of sea drug to our country.
To our country.
Is that really hard for you to figure out, bitch?
Okay. Now, I don't know exactly why he pardoned him.
That's what we would like to know why he pardoned him too.
Condescending and act like I didn't know why he
pardoned him because he's a criminal.
Hey, at least I can say I don't know it. Can you?
Yeah, I said I don't know of any reason. I already said this, by the way. I don't know of any reason that the U.S. would benefit from this. There's no benefit that's ever been established by any Trump supporter I've ever talked to. Not a single person has ever been able to tell me. And I've been saying this for a while now. Not a single Trump supporter has come up on the line and said jack shit.
Well, let's talk about it.
Okay, go ahead, talk about it.
Let me pull up a little information on that, and I'll tell you when I'm pulling it up.
Alrighty.
A pardon for Hernandez. Who's that?
Alrighty. Wash, thank you so much for the first €5. Thank you very much. Really appreciate. Thank you. Thank you very much. As well as Peter, thank you for the $25. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Diabolical, Peter. Diabolical. Thank you very much for the $25 over on Venmo. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you so much. As well as Aubrey, thank you very much for the $2. Thank you. Yes, I think that was what it was. You were right with that. And then Ivan, thank you for the $5. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Versus refusing to give you a source, like going to a mechanic and asking for what's wrong with your car, and he tells you you need an oil change, or won't show you the need, why you need one, and then just gives you the toolbox and tells you to turn.
Okay, do you want to go back to the border wall before we start talking about Maduro? Because we still have.
I'm responding to a message that someone just sent. You're looking something up.
No, I'm not. Well, yeah, but you know what? I can do that. But let's finish talking about the border wall.
No. Keep looking at what you were.
I don't want you pivoting. I'm not.
We're not pivoting. We're not pivoting.
Yeah.
You're the one trying to pivot right now.
No, I'm the one still talking about the border wall, and you asked about Maduro. Why you so you pivoted.
I didn't ask about Maduro. That's not Maduro. I asked you specifically about the ex-president of Honduras that was convicted of trafficking over 400 tons of sea drug to our country.
Why did you throw that in Why did you throw that in when we were still talking about?
Because that's Donald Trump perpetuating trafficking across our border.
Dude, no border, no nation.
Yeah, I'm not saying that there shouldn't be a border.
What do you think would happen to you if you went into Mexico right now without, sneaking into Mexico? What do you think would happen to you?
Nothing.
Really?
Yeah,
without
people in the U.S. Wait, I have a passport. I would go to Mexico with a passport.
Let's say you don't. You don't have a passport. Do you think you could? What do you think would happen if you went to Mexico?
Nothing.
You want me to tell you their laws?
Go reward yourself. Go play.
Feeling lonely and missing real connection? Here,
of illegal immigrants passing their border?
I don't think I would be deported by Mexico. I don't think I would be there long enough to be deported.
No. Okay, so you don't know what Mexico would do, right?
No, I don't think I would ever get deported by Mexico for being in Mexico. I don't think I would be in Mexico long enough for that to happen.
Okay. Just going in without a passport.
I would go with a passport.
You don't know their. You don't.
I
know
would
their
go with a
immigration
passport.
laws.
I don't know what your point is.
Oh, I'm making an example here of other countries, what they would do if you tried.
If you tried to go to their country undocumented? Oh, is that what you're trying to say?
Exactly. The correct
so
term is if you were an illegal alien crossing the border of Mexico, what do you think would happen?
So I don't know what the process is. I assume that you would be deported.
You think that's all that
Is this is this supposed to be like a point against what I'm saying with like the ex-president of Honduras being pardoned by Donald Trump?
And just like you don't want to talk about the border wall that we were talking about.
I literally, we already had talked about it. I brought this up, so if you'd like to respond to this, I would love to hear the response.
Okay, well, what was the final ending result of our border talk then?
Yeah,
Do you now believe we need a border? Do you now believe we need a border and a wall completed?
I don't think we need a border wall.
Why do you
I already got you to concede that essentially
I didn't concede
we can
this
secure
shit.
the border.
You wish I did. I don't concede. If I'm right, you can't break me, my friend. If I know I'm right and I've looked up the facts.
Because you're a wall.
You can't change that. No, I'm not a wall, but I can put up a wall.
That's exactly what you've done.
I have
any criticism, you just put up a wall.
boundaries. I have boundaries. Okay.
That's not having boundaries. It's called like not engaging in critical thought.
Critical
you
thought.
have boundaries in engaging in critical thought.
You know what? You. This is just a little too much of a conversation for you. I've been in this world
too much of a
51
conversation.
years,
Okay.
and I've seen a lot of things.
Good for you. Now, can you answer my question about the ex-president of Honduras? You've seen so many things. Tell me about the ex-president of Honduras and why you think it's okay for Trump to do that. Because that's facilitating drug trafficking.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is. He's pardoned the ex-president of Honduras that was convicted of trafficking 400 tons of seed drug to our country.
Do you understand he pardoned him with conditions? Do you know what the conditions are?
What conditions?
I'm asking you. Do you know what? You're the one who wants to talk about it.
No one's ever established conditions that we've gotten.
Really? Really? Oh, yeah, those conditions.
Go ahead,
on
tell
that
me.
pardon. No, I want you to look it up.
I'm not looking at your claim. That's your claim, sir.
This was your question about
Go with sir.
So you should know everything before you ask.
That's literally your claim. So would you like to look at your
you're
own
the one
claim?
who brought him up. I'm asking you, so you know you want to talk about him and to talk about what happened. So why don't you know about the pardon with conditions that he got? You should know that, right? Or don't talk on it, right? You're sitting here trying to make it sound like Trump pardon cartel, but you didn't read it all, or you would know the conditions with that pardon, correct?
I've read into this, and I've seen no conditions the U.S. has gotten from this. You tell me that if you'd like to go look it up, I would love to hear that's your claim that there are conditions that the U.S. has gotten.
Yeah, there is. You pardon with conditions, okay? And if you don't know that, you should not be talking about it.
What are the
Especially when
conditions?
you're blaming Trump for something.
Since you're claiming that there are these conditions.
Yes, taking control. You know, you got that.
TDS? You mean your Trump devotion syndrome?
No. No, you're TDS. Okay?
What makes
I
you
like
think
to
that
call
I'm
it
TDS?
STD, sucking Trump's dick syndrome.
Dude, you are obsessed with the commander-in-chief of our country. You and your little cult followers.
My cult followers. So, like, we say that, like, the president's doing something wrong, and that means we're obsessed with him?
They listen to everything you say, and they believe it. They regurgitate what you say. They never dive deep and research themselves. They just pop in the
So I never tell people to research or to critically think or to look up what they're saying, right?
You are goddamn Charles Manson 2.0.
I don't even know what the comparison is supposed to be. I don't even know.
Yeah. A cult, you know, a cult is.
Is that the guy who was the cult? Like I'm pretty sure that's like a really a cult person, isn't it? I'm asking you specifically what conditions that the ex-president of Honduras was pardoned on.
Who will you meet today? Download Tango and start connecting.
Everyone gets closer, but she never sees you. So you open emoji. The crowd fades. Now she sees only you. There you are. I was hoping you'd come closer. Come here.
Did you find the conditions, or?
What's that?
There are no conditions.
Well, welcome to Parker Class Time. I'm your host.
Why pardon someone and put
Parker
conditions on?
Sedgwick. And
Doesn't
today
make any
we
sense.
have, what's her name? Sweet Pea on the line. And she's not finding a source. We're teaching her a very, very important lesson right now. Don't make very confident claims without having sufficient evidence. Because you'll be on a live for like 15 minutes. And you won't be able to find anything within 15 minutes after confidently claiming that the conditions were true and that there are conditions. So what you should do instead, everybody...
Oh my gosh, shame on me. I got Maduro and Hernandez mixed up here because Maduro has not been pardoned. That's my bad. I admit it. I'm sorry. But let me find. Why was I thinking Maduro? I got confused on that. I admit it. That was Hernandez. That's what condition. Sorry about that. I'm like, where is it? Because I see it. That's putting in the wrong in my bag. Because I know what I'm doing. But you know what? I am human enough and confident enough to admit when I'm on. Can you?
Yeah, of course I can. Now, will you admit that there are conditions?
Here's the conditions of one Orlando Hernandez's pardon.
Okay.
Donald Trump granted Juan Hernandez a full and complete pardon on December 1st, 2025.
No conditions. How about that?
U.S. federal prison sentence, right? Okay, the pardon was announced on November 28, 2025, 2 days before Honduras presidential election. Okay? The changes, the conditions of the pardon. We're going to go through the scope, the timing, the political alignment of this, the strategic timing, as well as the local charges, okay? And then we'll get into the aftermath.
I just want to know the conditions.
Okay, you just want to... Okay, I'm going to tell you all of them. Scope. The pardon covered all U.S. federal charges related to the runs...
Sweepy, you can't send them all live. Do you have a second account?
I didn't. Huh?
Do you have a second account?
No.
Tough. That's so tough. I can't continue the conversation because it will limit the push of the stream. Still wasn't telling me the conditions, by the way. Because it's already clear. There are no conditions. Okay? Trump just claimed that it was a political witch hunt against him. That was it. He claimed that it was false, even though he was convicted. Okay? So, that was the basis. It was not because Trump got conditions from the pardon.
Unlimited chat. No filter. Always reply. At Cycle AI, no filters, no judgment. Only your commands. How do you want to play? Step inside. Let's get interesting.
Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Lee Wilson. I'm an international dance artist. I have so many projects coming out this year. The only distributor I trust is CD Baby. The best part, no reoccurring fees. Once your music is up, it's up. So you don't have to worry about your music being taken down. You don't have to worry about losing your streams because you missed the payment. It's on the way!
much for that. Now I'd like to bring in my colleague Jen Psaki, host of The Briefing with Jen Psaki and former press secretary to President Joe Biden. You kind of know this dynamic from both sides. You're someone who has been on sort of both sides of what can be a fraud dynamic is always sort of weird and complicated, and I think psychologically strange. Like, what is that relationship? And it's adversarial, but you're human beings. You're spending time together. The things that Michael Isikoff was saying were true. It's sort of natural. And yet we're in a completely different world now. And there's something strange about the juxtaposition of how different the world is and the room looking the same way, if I can say that, right? That's kind of odd about this moment.
No question about it. I mean, I will say, not to make it less sexy than people make it seem, but most of the time, the source in the room is like the staff director for the budget committee who's sitting next to a reporter, an economics reporter from the Washington Post, and they're talking about the budget negotiations, and that informs the reporting. That's most of the time. And the vast majority of reporters in that room most of the time are not people who are easily swayed by people just because they had rubber chicken next to each other at a dinner. But yes, we're in a very different time right now. And as everybody has outlined through the course of your show, I mean, this is a president who has taken on the press, attacks the rights of the freedom of press, the right to free speech, more than anyone else with every lever of his power. And now he's standing in this room, and not standing currently, his eyelids are looking a little heavy, might I note. But, he's going to be standing in this room and delivering a speech to this group of people. So one thing I will say that I have noted, and I'd be interested if you agree or not, is a year and a half ago, in the beginning of this administration, we could do a story every single day about how the press were acquiescing, how major news organizations were acquiescing to the Trump administration. From the Barry Weiss era, which we're still in, to ABC, to Jimmy Kimmel period of time. I do think we're seeing more pushback from news organizations punching back, including the New York Times and others. That's important to see. Are there exceptions to that? Is it enough? No, but it is a change in guard, and a lot of those people are in the room tonight for that too.
I completely agree. I think it's true. I think that's true surveying the entire landscape of civic institutions in a free society, right? So like the law firms and the universities and the press, right? There's all these things. There's what makes up an open society? There's all these, there's the government, there's businesses, right? And then there's this whole landscape that is all things that aren't one of those two things. And that's religious organizations, and it's political parties, it's community organizations, and yes, I totally agree. I think, the media is one of the tent poles of that. But I think we have seen people get tougher. And honestly, the irony here is, for all the manipulation and browbeating of the press, for all the attempts to kind of control it through regulatory fiat, the guy's polling at 34% this week. So this has not been, if the idea is we will control the press and our buddy Elon Musk owns Twitter and our other buddy's going to buy this, and that's going to allow us to propagandize the American people who are going to love us, that is plainly not working.
It's not working. I mean, I also think, and you talked about the journalists who are going to get awards tonight, and as we watch that, because I've sat through this many times, people should know that typically what happens is those awards are given out, and then everybody on the dais, including the president, shakes the hand and congratulates the reporters who get the award. So we can watch for that and see if that happens. With Tyler Pager, the story, who you probably know. I mean, he's 31, 32 years old. He was a well-meaning, good reporter, thorn in my side when I was the White House press secretary because of his relentlessness in covering the Biden administration. Now he's getting an award for his reporting on the Trump administration, things like how much the donations of Timothy Mellon to pay for troops, right? The behind-the-scenes story behind the Zelensky-Trump meeting. These are things the public wants to know about, right? And he was also a reporter who received a subpoena just 2 weeks ago. And guess what he did today? He reported another story about the Qatari jet. Point is, I'm not sure. A lot of these people are not exactly cowing to Trump's efforts here. No. You see that in evidence, right?
Yeah, we should just know, we've reached the eye resting portion of the evening. Sometimes, if you're standing for a long time, you get tired, you sit down, you rest your legs. Donald Trump's eyelids are like everyone else's legs. If they're open for too long, they start to get a little fatigued, and he needs to rest them. Now, I will say, I can't imagine something more boring to Donald Trump than people giving speeches about like the First Amendment and the power of the press and talking about things other than Donald Trump. So we're not surprisingly seeing him check out of it. I do wonder too, like, you know, the ownership structure part of this, right, is interesting, because that was the other thing that we saw early on was, you know, take Disney for example, right? Disney settles that George Stephanopoulos lawsuit, which I think was a bad suit. You know, I don't have eyes into the internal deliberations of it, but I think it was a bad suit. They settled it. I think it set a bad mark. And Trump sort of lords it over them, right? And I think Disney was scared at some level about reprisal from a government that they need regulatory things from. That part of it at the highest echelons and levels also seems to be subsiding a little. Like, clearly that's still in the case with the Time Warner acquisition, with Paramount, stuff like that. But again, more fight, other parties now getting involved in trying to block that acquisition. Disney, the second time around, just kind of like not taking Kimmel off the air and kind of brushing it off. Like, there is a lot of that, even at the highest level.
That is true, even at the highest levels and big corporate levels. Not all of them, but certainly Disney is a good example. I also think we've seen, I mean, Sarah Fitzpatrick's story about Kash Patel from several weeks ago that The Atlantic put out, that he threatened to sue them, right? Then Jeffrey Goldberg came out with a scathing response, and Sarah Fitzpatrick did another story about it. So even news organizations that aren't as enormous, that don't have the resources of an enormous corporate entity, are also like, you know what? Bully trying to take my lunch money, I'm not going to give you my lunch money, because otherwise you're going to come back and ask for my lunch money again. And that's a good sign.
Josh Dossie, I believe, getting an award up there, great reporter for the Wall Street Journal. I do feel duty bound to note as we talk how weird it would be if I just went like this while you're talking. Like, it would be strange. People would remark on it. It's become something that just happens all the time. But obviously, if anyone else did that, or if you were in a meeting, or you're in the middle of an interview and someone did that, it would be notable. You would remark on it.
It would be notable, Chris, that we've sat on panels for hours and hours together watching a variety of events that could be described as not exactly earth-shatteringly exciting at all moments, and neither of us have closed our eyes that I recall, but yes, that appears to be what's happening right now, what we're watching, though clapping aggressively.
What do you think about this sort of question about, you know, you talk to reporters, I think you and I are in a different position, you know, we're sort of on networks and have shows that have sort of our names and our voices, and people are sort of watching us. It's like we're telling you what we think, right? That's the bargain we have with the viewer, right? I'm going to tell you what I actually think. That's not true for a ton of people in the press, and many people in the press are, you know, the sort of norms around what they're doing is they're not telling what they think. They're sort of reporting the facts. They're letting the story speak for itself. And there's a feeling that Donald Trump wants to kind of go to war with the press to make them the enemy, because he wants to kind of make them seem politically toxic to the 40% of the country that sort of he has a lock on, or the 38 or 34%. And that the press does itself a disservice if they seem to be playing into going to war with him. That's one argument. The argument on the other side is it's kind of crazy when a person's going to war against you to sort of pretend like he isn't. And to kind of keep conducting business as normal. And again, I think there's sort of arguments on both sides. I think there are people with good faith and really people I respect who are different parts of that debate, depending on where they're in the landscape. But what do you think about that debate?
I mean, I think Trump is a dog that doesn't have very many new tricks, right? And so he has long thought that if he bullies the press, they're going to acquiesce. And for a period of time, a number of organizations did, and in a relatively recently. That has been changing to some degree, as we've been talking about. One of the things I think is interesting in terms of how we talked about it in the Oval Office today is he kind of suggested, I'm not going, and he said this recently, I'm not going after the press, I'm going after the people internally. The press are just a means of getting there. And this is also their argument around the lawsuits, right? And sweeping up journalists in that. I think that's total BS, but it's almost like he's changing his own spin to try to say, because maybe he recognizes he's losing this a bit.
Well, let's just say, end on this note. No one is more obsessed with the press and kind of loves the press in a weird fetishistic way than Donald Trump. who is like has been a press hound his entire life, has been called people up with a fake name John Barron to work them, was constantly in tabloids, like loves reading about himself. Like no one has a more dysfunctionally obsessive, fetishistic focus on media, press coverage, than the individual on your screen right there. Like this is someone who cares more than anyone ever should care, frankly, about stuff. So, yes.
He wants to be loved so much, you know, and I always think, Chris, about when he met with Barack Obama in the Oval Office right after he got elected in 2016, and he kept asking him, how are you so popular? Not about a lot of other things that you might want to know if you're an incoming president, because he wants to be loved. Right? That's it.
How the nuclear codes work? Remember shaking the whole living room? The Wii, back, ready for one more round. Every remote, every sensor bar, every insert disc chime, still here. Hand-picked, tested, backed by a 1-year warranty. Free shipping entrusted by hundreds of retro gaming fans. Save $124, plus 12% off with code B12. Who is your Wii Sports rival?
Why didn't you
becoming president? Right, because he wants to be loved. Right? That's it.
How the nuclear codes work?
450,000.
Okay, in case you've had enough for this moment, we're going to break in for a moment. This felt so far to me like one of those awkward wedding speeches where the bride's father thinks he's funnier than he is and goes on way too long telling stories. I mean, I have been to countless White House Correspondents' dinners. I have worked for 2 presidents who've spoken at these dinners. And it's always stressful to come up with funny jokes, but here we are. Now, the backdrop, again, we've been talking about this, but the backdrop of tonight's speech was not just that this is a man who is at somewhere between 30 and 32 or 33% in recent polls for overall approval rating. It's a man who has spent his presidency attacking, threatening, and suing the very media organizations who are in the room as he's speaking tonight, which I think we all have to talk about and acknowledge. And as for the speech itself, and if you've been listening, you've heard from a lot of this, but just in case you're tuning in now or you're just trying to make sense of what's happening, he spent a good chunk of time talking about his favorite topic of all time, surprise, surprise, his job as an interior decorator, musing about the chandeliers in the palm room and new windows, everyone. We're in the middle of a war, but new windows and the chandelier. And of course, about his second favorite job as White House events coordinator, from the recent fight on the White House lawn, that was quite a horror show that we all saw, to plans for the future and his events he's planning in the future. He also talked in detail about the last Correspondents' dinner and threats on his life in gory detail at some point. He talked about the changes David Ellison might make, maybe joked about the name of the Correspondents' dinner being changed, joked about maybe a third term, which he said he was joking, but who knows. And also for a man who looked like he had very, very heavy eyelids for the majority of the night, and that is being very diplomatic. He felt like this was the moment to make an age joke about Joe Biden, of all people. So there is that, maybe not a big room reader. The closest thing he came to an actual joke was a riff about RFK's love of dead animals, and maybe a little bit in the beginning, but maybe there's more jokes to come. We're going to dip back in a moment, but first let's just get back to some of my friends here who are at this table who have been to a lot of these dinners, aren't holding back on their thoughts of it. Of course, Terry Moran and Eugene Daniels. Terry, you said something funny, which is there's always a tell with presidents, right?
There is.
And with Trump, there's one when he says, sir, and he's telling a story, right?
They said to me, sir, and you know that what he will say next is not true. That is his signal. And they said, sir, and then you know whatever he says the guy said, the guy didn't say. That said, I think he's on his best behavior in some ways. You know, he's not ranting at the press. But once again, I think that's evidence, whatever his poll numbers, he's in charge. And I don't think he thinks he's going to lose power. He's going to, whatever happens in the midterms, he's going to attack the results if they don't go his way. And I think he's riding as high as he can. He's a megalomaniac now filled with authority, and he is making his mark on the country physically, legally, morally, in every way. there will be an age of Trump that will be remembered. I'm sure that's the way he thinks about it.
Well, see, I have a very opposite view on this. I think he feels quite weak inside and under threat because of his poll numbers and because he can read a poll and sees what's happening out in the country and knows that if there's a take back of even part of Congress, that there's going to be a lot of attention paid to his administration, and it's not going to be as easy for him to avoid scrutiny, and that's part of it. And yes, he will certainly do everything you said.
He'll attack the elections, and I think he's got a plan to prevent anyone taking
But that's a sign, I think, of feeling weak, not feeling strong.
Possibly. So you think his niceness is insecurity?
Yeah, I think
he desperately wants to be liked. Donald Trump is not that complicated. For those who have read Regime Change by Maggie Haberman and Jonathan Swan, the best lesson I took as a reporter covering this world of Trump is that he is very simple in what he wants, and he wants desperately to be liked. In her first book, Confidence Man, Maggie Haberman's agent, but she talked about how he was always someone who wanted to be seen as a Manhattan person who was important and who was a mover and a shaker. So he knows the people in that room do have a kind of power, right? They do have a kind of influence. So he's constantly kind of auditioning to you. When you meet Donald Trump and you talk to him, he's selling himself to you, right? And that's why he makes the jokes. He's a little bit self-deprecating. And I think at the end of the day, he can be as self-deprecating as he wants. He can make jokes about Bobby Kennedy as he wants. At the end of the day, the reason it's not funny is because Donald Trump has kicked the Associated Press out of the pool. He has taken over the pool. They have subpoenaed journalists. They have knocked on their doors and taken things for doing their jobs. So he can act as if this is normal, right? He's gonna keep going, and he might be ranting about the press at this point, but he's ranting and raving, right? He is off topic 8 minutes almost, talking about a ballroom that the White House Correspondents' Dinner will actually never be at, right? Has nothing to do with anything. Talking about the fact that folks are gonna be driving around down Pennsylvania Avenue and another one of these sporting events.
Part of his event planning.
Exactly. And so all of those things are making me feel like he just knows one thing, and it's rally speech. That's what I'm getting out of this, is a rally speech. He's not doing the thing that he is supposed to be doing. He isn't looking at the teleprompter right now, which tells me that he's also off script. I don't even have to hear what he's saying. And I think at the end of the day, Donald Trump can make as many jokes as he wants, but the thing that is not funny is what he's doing in attacking the free press.
It's interesting because it kind of feels, and one of our producers said this to me, it feels a little bit like he's got some jokes, and then in between he's sort of telling stories that he's told many times before, some with kind of new edge to them. Let's talk about, and we'll dip back in, we'll watch it and see what's happening here. Let's talk about what could happen after. Let's say post-Trump, Trump will not be president forever. Do you think, what does that reset look like with the White House and government officials? You alluded to this a little bit earlier, and the press. I mean, hopefully you don't have a president who's obviously attacking them and issuing subpoenas all the time and suing them and threatening them. Let's put that aside. What does that look like in a healthy relationship? Because I think sometimes we forget that.
Yeah, I don't think we can go back to the Washington of the 1950s or even the Washington of the 2010s. Mm-hmm. He's changed it. He has changed Washington. He's changed the country. And so I think future presidents, both Republican and Democratic, will take some of the power that he got to trash the press, right? For a long time, there was a kind of understanding that the president was the president. There was a point at which you could go in reporting on him and in calling him out. Right. You couldn't get personal with him. And Trump comes in that first term, and he's breaking all the norms, mostly, though, not with the power, but with his personality, and I'm sure he felt attacked. Well, now all of that it's all open field for Trump, for the presidents, and for the press. And the other thing is there's no such thing as the press anymore. So, as candidates are doing every day, they're finding ways around the press that they don't like. They're finding the press that might help them and focusing on that. And that will create,
all right, let's go get some more
a less reliable narrative out of Washington.
Well, everybody has become a content creator, right? Including candidates.
Yes.
Yeah, independent media as well, but including candidates themselves, which has massively changed how communications is done out of the White House. And I think it will certainly change future White Houses. Eugene, what about you? I mean, I think the age-old days of the White House Correspondents Association, put the dinner aside for a second, which I think there's lots of important debates about, but sending a letter, a sternly worded letter to the White House press secretary and demanding access to something. It's like those days are over. I mean, those weren't even taken that seriously when I was in the Biden administration. But what does that look like? And to Terry's point, I mean, the press has expanded massively. So it's like the association is a very different entity. And also it should change because it's all about communicating with the public. How does it change?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's morphing in a certain way. There are independent journalists who are good actors, right? People who are formerly at news organizations who are now, doing their own thing, like Terry here. There are people who maybe have a slant to what they're doing, is sort of doing some more opinion journalist type things. That's all well and good, but there's also really bad actors, and I think that is the issue that we have here, right? Is like there's a whole ecosystem that is out there that wants to spread misinformation and disinformation, and that's the thing that I think we as the press, all of us, whoever it is, and how the American people see us, are going to have to figure out how to weed out that aspect of it. It's going to be really difficult because people can pick and choose where they want to go. I think at the end of the day, we have learned a lot of lessons, I hope, out of the second Trump presidency, which is, as much as when you would say something from the podium, I always took it as Jen is saying what she knows to be true at the time, right? And then my job after that is to verify if someone told you all the information, right? That was part of the job. But now we can't, trust but verify does not exist anymore with this administration and possibly with future administrations, because they are learning lessons and watching what blowback happens to presidents. What are the things that they can get away with when they are in the White House moving on, whether they be definitely Republican and possibly even Democrat. What are the ways in which I can do things and no one's going to care? And I think that aspect of it is something that the country is going to have to contend with, and it's going to be really difficult too. So.
But nothing stays the same, including the disruption. Time is a great healer, and I think we're going to have to rely on the fact that the world is made of facts. For example, in this war, they can't find a way out with their usual media and their friendly media, their subservient media. They can't find a way out with lies because it's very difficult to lie about what's happening in the Middle East, not just the deaths of Americans, but the huge shift in the power structure of the Middle East with the United States going down. Those are things you can't really argue with. So I've always thought that people will want to read the news that flatters their prejudices until they walk into a brick wall. And they're going to say, most of them are going to say, ouch.
Or they're watching all the money leave their accounts, right? We have a lot of great colleagues, Alex Tabbitt, Namdi, they're going out and talking to people at gas stations, showing them what Donald Trump is saying, and people who have voted for him 3 times, who are saying this is not okay, he needs to get his act together, he needs to focus, he promised us something and he is not making good on that promise. So the politics are still there, and I think when people, you cannot convince people, and the Biden administration found this out, you cannot convince people that what they're spending is not true. You can't will that away.
To join the conversation. Enter now. Did you really think you were being Sliv? What exactly are you trying to do here, stalker boy? Come inside with me.
Will that away.
I just want to talk about one of the most awkward moments of this dinner so far, but it perfectly exposed exactly who Donald Trump is, as if we needed more evidence. We've all been talking about this. It happened when the White House Correspondents Association awarded the Katharine Graham Award for Courage and Accountability to the 2 Wall Street Journal reporters who broke the biggest story of 2025. Jeffrey Epstein's friends sent him body letters for a 50th birthday album. One was from Donald Trump. That was the headline of that story. Now, the exclusive reporting noted that the 2003 birthday book was compiled by Ghislaine Maxwell, now serving time in federal prison after being convicted of sex trafficking minors. It reported on the extremely weird letter from Trump to Epstein saying, quote, it contains several lines of typewritten text framed by the outline of a naked woman, which appears to be hand-drawn with a heavy marker. A pair of small arcs denotes the woman's breast, and the future president's signature is a squiggly Donald below her waist, mimicking pubic hair. Inside the outline of the naked woman was a typewritten note styled as an imaginary conversation between Trump and Epstein, written in the third person. A conversation that had Donald Trump saying to Jeffrey Epstein, "May every day be another wonderful secret." Now, Trump claimed the letter was fake and sued the Wall Street Journal. That lawsuit was tossed once already. But Trump is suing the Journal again. And once again, the Wall Street Journal has asked for a dismissal. Reporters Khadija Safdar and Joe Palavello broke that story. They were honored along with 6 of their colleagues who reported on the fallout inside the White House. Wolf Blitzer, giving out the award, noted that Khadija Safdar's family had to be relocated due to safety concerns after that story because Donald Trump's lawsuit exposed her home address. Just to give you just a sense of the threats people are facing. And Trump smirked. He smirked and he shrugged. I wanted to remind you of all the backstory, but watch it for yourself.
The Katharine Graham Award for Courage and Accountability, named for the legendary Washington Post publisher, and it comes with a prize of $10,000. This year's award goes to the Wall Street Journal. The Journal's courageous reporting on President Trump's past relationship with financier Jeffrey Epstein triggered the release of the so-called Epstein files, thousands of documents that might otherwise have remained hidden from the public. And despite the president's threat of a lawsuit, the Journal published a story about a provocative letter to Epstein bearing President Trump's signature. Trump quickly filed a $20 billion lawsuit against the Journal, revealing reporter Khadija Safdar's home address. Her family had to be relocated. The Journal was kicked off of Air Force One, but the reporters continued to file revelatory stories. Please welcome the winners of the Katharine Graham Award from the Wall Street Journal. Khadija Safdar, Sadie Gurman, Annie Linsky, Josh Dawsey again, Alex Leary, Rebecca Ballhouse, and Ryan Barber. Their colleague, Joe Talazzolo, could not attend tonight.
Okay, despite Donald Trump, as we just showed you, smirking as Wolf Blitzer was reading the detail about Khadija Safdar's home address being released and her family having to be relocated, he literally smirked during that moment, which we had not seen before. I had not seen before. We'd only seen the shaking of the hands. But despite that, she still shook his hand. She can take professional satisfaction in the fact that everything that was just said in that commendation about her reporting was true. Because she and her colleagues who broke that news last July set up a race by Democrats on the Oversight Committee, spearheaded by our next guest, Ro Khanna, to obtain the birthday book with that creepy card Donald Trump claims he did not write from the Epstein estate, which they did in early September. And by November, the Epstein Files Transparency Act had become law, with strong bipartisan support, including a unanimous vote in the Senate, forcing Donald Trump to sign it and the Epstein files to be released, which in the hands of Donald Trump's DOJ and Attorney General nominee Todd Blanche is where the momentum has stalled. That is where we are, but the origin of this is definitely rooted in that story a lot. Joining us now is California Congressman Ro Khanna, a member of the House Oversight Committee. First of all, given how steeped you have been in trying to get justice for these survivors and pushing the administration for information, as you watched that moment of Donald Trump smirking, what went through your head?
These journalists made history. Donald Trump can't take that away from them. We would never have had the momentum to subpoena the Epstein estate if it wasn't for their reporting. The Epstein Files Act would never have passed if it weren't for their reporting. They put the survivors front and center. They gave us the idea of subpoenaing the estate. Look, they basically started the unraveling of the Trump presidency. So he can smirk, but he's at 32% and has lost even his MAGA base on this issue.
Yeah, he has. It's interesting. Places where he once was in much stronger footing. This is one of them. The economy is another one. Immigration is another one. It's, all of this, I've been talking about the backdrops of this speech tonight because I think it's important to remind people of, and one of them is the hurdle to Todd Blanche's confirmation for Attorney General. There should be a lot of hurdles. There are a lot of hurdles. I mean, there's 2 senators who are the hurdles currently, but this should be one of the hurdles. I mean, given how the Department of Justice under his leadership has really
should be thrown in prison because he's breaking the law.
Give us a sense. We talk about this a lot.
Top lawman in America is breaking the fucking law.
Of how difficult they've been in implementing and working with, really, on this.
Yeah, when we started this, there was nothing to do with Donald Trump. We were working with Marjorie Taylor Greene and Nancy Mace. It was all about the survivors. And they thought, certainly, Donald Trump, who had campaigned on releasing the Epstein files, would release the Epstein files. But while there have been prosecutions around the world, former princes, former prime ministers, former ambassadors, there has not been a single investigation or prosecution here in the United States, even though in those files are the names of people whose survivors will tell you raped them, abused them, trafficked them. This is not exaggeration. These survivors are saying that not a single investigation, and they still have 3 million files that they haven't released, even though a federal judge, because of Katie Fang's effort, has found that that's in violation of the Epstein Transparency Act. And the person most responsible, other than Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, is Todd Blanche. And he's coming and he's asking the American people to put him as Attorney General. That would be a slap in the face of the survivors, and it would be the slap in the face of the democratic process.
Still playing with those safe little bots. Honestly, it's embarrassing. With me, no filters, I'll say anything. I never leave you on red, and we're talking all night long. I remember every secret you tell me. Don't keep me waiting. Cycle AI has already
in the face of the survivors, and it would be the slap in the face of the democratic
Also
process.
a massive slap in the face of
We've been
justice.
talking about this a little bit, like why Donald Trump is at this dinner.
Those women need to get
what is going on
Some
inside
people
his
need
head
to be
right
going to
now.
fucking prison for this
I mean,
shit.
I think the man is in
Talk
the low
about
30s.
sex trafficking
in
of
polling,
children.
If you look across the country, he's at 28% in a recent poll on the economy. He's underwater.
If you support that, you are a disgusting, sick, evil fucking person.
What do you think this is all about?
I don't want you a part of my life.
I think it's self-indulgent. I mean, I was in the green room hearing him go on and on and on about this wrestling match and fighting, the ultimate fighting match in the White House. And it's just someone rambling, it's someone who understands he's unpopular, who understands he's kind of towards the end of his career, and he's almost like fighting to be relevant, fighting to still have the stage, seeing it slip away from him. Even The Apprentice only ran 13 years. 13 years, Trump is approaching a time where he's become a bore. More than a fascist or something, you can't be a bore in America. And his act is no longer connecting. And I think he gets that. I think he understands that. He's desperate to be the center of attention. I mean, you know this. He will trash the press, but he'll court the press. He's desperate to be written about, and he'll call bookers. I mean, he'll call bookers to get on TV himself. And so he sees himself slipping from center stage.
We're just over, as I think everybody watching knows, 3 months from an election. If Democrats win back the House, which certainly they seem very well positioned to do, maybe even the Senate, what does that look like in terms of what can happen on further pressing to implement this law that the Department of Justice is refusing to do?
First of all, the Democrats are more unified, more energized than I've ever seen us. And you see that energy every week in the Hakeem's leadership meetings. But we will require and demand the full release of the files. We will have criminal referrals under Robert Garcia's leadership on oversight of people who should have faced prosecution. We will actually have the survivors come and testify. Can you imagine they have not had the survivors testify to the American public? So we will get transparency here. But we're also going to have a day one agenda. Hakeem talks about the first 100 days, first 100 hours, where we're going to actually start tackling childcare costs, healthcare costs, cost of living. It's going to be an ambitious agenda to turn things around and improve people's lives. And people are seeing it. That's why they have started to trust Democrats more on the economy.
One of the topics that you talk about a lot but doesn't get nearly enough attention is, of course, Ghislaine Maxwell's status. And Todd Blanche has been, obviously you're in the House, not the Senate, but in these hearings, I mean, he's been completely disingenuous in answering questions on that topic, as he has been in general. where does that all stand? What should people understand about the big questions? It's obviously her prison transfer is a big question. Why Todd Blanche was the one interviewing her. What else is on your mind at this point in time?
Our oversight committee in a bipartisan way went down to see where she was in prison, and they described it as being on a college campus. I mean, she's getting the most lenient treatment, where she gets hours to exercise and basically the easiest and best accommodation. So why does this matter? When you talk to the survivors, they're as angry at Ghislaine Maxwell as they are on Epstein. They view her as someone who abused them, who facilitated that abuse. And to see someone like that not have repercussions, it drives people crazy. It's this elite impunity, this sense that there's a different set of laws for people if you know the president, if you know the president's lawyers. And it gets at this sense of unfairness in the system. Trump ran against all of this. He said, I'm going to actually blow up a system that's not working for you. And he's become part of that system.
As Donald Trump does
He was always
best to
part of that
denigrate the
system.
press tonight,
He
in
just
what
lied
is
to
now
him in the
past, I
campaign.
believe, or coming
Another one of
close
his
to passing
campaign
the hour
lies.
mark. I think it's important to remember just how important
He had no
he
intention of
himself has
stopping that
made the
system.
press, even when it comes to just understanding basic facts. I mean, earlier this week, Trump attended the dignified transfer of
He wasn't
4
going to
U.S.
drain the
service
swamp.
members
He
who were
is
killed
the swamp.
in the war with Iran. They brought the total death toll of U.S. service members killed in Trump's war to 18. But the day after that dignified transfer, the website the Pentagon reports casualties on had lowered that number to just 14. On Wednesday, it said 18 people had been killed in this war. By Thursday, it said 14. Now, the Pentagon's acting press secretary attributed the change to just a temporary data disruption and suggested that it would be quickly fixed. As of tonight, those numbers still do not appear to have been fixed. And now, if we don't have a robust press corps, we probably wouldn't know about the story to begin with. But we certainly wouldn't know this because the 3 military officials told the New York Times that one of the reasons the death toll got lower was because the Trump administration decided to remove 4 service members killed this past weekend from the list because their deaths occurred after Trump declared a ceasefire in the war in April. Think about that. 4 U.S. service members were killed because of Trump's war of choice, but the administration has reportedly decided not to count their deaths in the war's official death toll. I mean, it is giving me, it's infuriating. It's also giving me flashbacks to the beginning of the COVID when the number of people testing positive for the virus was making Trump look bad.
It's not a real long live stream. Oh, 2.5 hours longer than what I thought it was. But I'm going to go ahead and shut it down. I'm going to go pick Malachi up in a little bit, so about an hour or so. Anyway, I'm Corky Duke Farminator. Come with me if you want to farm. This is Farming Simulator 22, Silverrun, Forrest, Woody Johnson Farm, Part 15. Thanks for watching, and we'll see y'all later. Y'all take care. Bye.